you so much for coming. This is a Performance Plus webinar, and we're going to talk about analyzing New Hampshire SAS data using push reports. Here we go. So for our presentation team today, I'm Heather Jenkins. I work for Demonstrated Success here and been doing a lot of the data coaching webinars. We also have Rebecca Dawson-Webb on this. She'll be monitoring the chat and the Q&A and all of that for us. So we appreciate having her here today.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. All right. So right now, just so that you know, everybody is muted, right? So we can't hear you. So don't worry too much about that. I am going to stop my video right here just so that I can make sure that your screen is a little bit bigger. And Rebecca will do the same. So now you should have a little bit more of your screen. We're happy to have you here. The biggest thing I want to make clear at the beginning of this webinar is that this is for Performance Plus subscribers. So if you are not a subscriber of Performance Plus, we're going to go through this webinar, and we're going to be talking about push reports that are specifically on the Performance Plus platform. So if you're a district, we noticed quite a few of you who were signing up today are not actually Performance Plus subscribers. So your district doesn't have Performance Plus. You are welcome to stay through this particular webinar just to kind of see what Performance Plus is about. But everything that you're going to be seeing is part of the Performance Plus platform. Also, for those of you who are Performance Plus subscribers, Performance Plus will be moving over to Performance Matters as of September 30th. So I'm showing you some things here today that are going to be currently available and will be available until September 30th. What I'm showing you are the push reports from last year. They will be very similar for this year, but this is all information, and these reports will be available to you until September 30th. And then for those of you who are going to Performance Matters, the push reports will look a little bit different. So this is what you currently have as Performance Plus subscribers. As we go through, please ask questions. The Q&A is easiest for Rebecca to be able to take a peek at and feed me information from. So if you do have a question, you can put it right in the Q&A. That will go directly to us. The chat will go pretty much to everybody, and Rebecca can try to do both, but she'll be looking mostly at Q&A. Tomorrow, for anybody who is interested, you will get a link to these Google Slides that I'm going to be going through. You'll get a PD certificate, and then at some point we'll have the Performance Plus webinar posted on our YouTube page. So all of that will kind of get to you in a link for tomorrow. And it's usually a full 24 hours. So if it's noontime, you wouldn't have gotten it. It'll be sometime tomorrow afternoon. You'll get that email. At the end, we always want to know how we're doing, so please take a minute to fill out the survey at the end, and we appreciate any feedback that you're able to give. So we'll get right into Performance Plus here and what we're going to be answering for today for our goals. First one is, how are the New Hampshire SAS summative results reported in Performance Plus? So those are the push reports that we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to show you where they are, how you view them, and how you can interpret them. So I'm going to go through in these slides, and these slides really pretty much contain everything. I took screenshots and tried to explain each portion of things, and we'll go through what the reports are and all of that. The first thing I wanted to do, these first couple of parts of the agenda, is I just want to talk in general about the New Hampshire SAS summative reporting structure and the scoring structure, because that is really important for you to understand as you're looking at the results and as you're interpreting the push reports. So for the summative reporting structure, we've got subjects, we've got your reporting categories, your clusters, and your standards. So when we're talking about subjects, we're talking about, for New Hampshire SAS, it's ELA for grades 3 through 8, math for grades 3 through 8, and for science, it's just grades 5, 8, and 11. These particular assessments are directly correlated with Common Core for math, ELA, and then the next generation science standards. So any questions that they have that are on the summatives are pulled from and in alignment with these particular sets of standards. When it comes to reporting categories, in New Hampshire SAS, they call them reporting categories. In the standards, they call them domains. So the reporting categories for math, ELA, and science, we call them reporting categories because you'll see here specifically with math, you'll see that sometimes geometry and statistics and probability, they're combined. So we call it a reporting category rather than a domain. And so anywhere there's an and here, you've got a couple of different domains of math within one particular reporting category for the summatives. If we're looking at the standards compared to the reporting structure, so this is math. If we're looking at the reporting categories in math, those are your big sort of, again, domains of math. The reporting categories might be more than one, but that's what it's in relation to for math. Same thing for ELA. The standards just a little bit different, but we're talking about reading standards for literature, reading standards for informational text, writing, so on and so forth. For science, it's your three main areas of science. So it's physical science, life science, and earth science are those reporting categories. When it comes to what we call clusters in standards, that's what we're talking about really. What are those overarching groups of standards within the Common Core? So here's for math. So under operations and algebraic thinking, that's your reporting category. But underneath that, you've got a couple of clusters of standards and then each individual standard underneath it. Same thing for ELA. We're looking at reading standards for literature for your reporting category, but for your clusters, key ideas and details and craft and structure are clusters of standards with each individual standard listed underneath it. For science, it's a little different. You've got clusters of standards. They're not really clusters, they're lined up with your topic areas or your disciplinary core ideas, and they're not down to the standard level for that. It only gets down to that disciplinary core idea. So just cluster level for those. I'll just pause there for just a second and just make sure we don't have any questions about sort of that reporting structure. I'm going to show you how it relates to the scoring on the New Hampshire SAS, but just making sure that everybody understands how that's related to the standards.
No questions at the moment, Heather.
Okay, definitely stop me if you have any questions. So the scores and the levels, same structure for scoring, but I want to talk a little bit about how the scoring and what levels of scoring we have. So for the subject scores, you are going to have 4 levels of proficiency for a subject. So for ELA, for math, for science, you're going to have a level 1, which is below proficient, 2 approaching, 3 is proficient, and 4 is highly proficient. This correlates with the colors that you see in PerformancePLUS as well. So these are just the verbiage that we have for each particular level. You can take a look at this again when you have the slides here. I just wanted to make sure that when we're talking below proficient, everybody's on the same page on what below proficient means. Same thing with approaching, proficient, and applying, and highly proficient. So again, for those subject scores, you get those 4 levels of where students are scoring. Now, the levels that students are scoring in have to do with what are called cut scores or their overall score within that particular area. I put this graphic on here because these are the cut scores that we have. If you're a 3rd grade teacher and you're looking at the math assessment, anything that a student scores overall below a 410, that student would be a level 1. If they're scoring 410 to 430, they're a level 2, so on and so forth. Same thing for ELA and math. Within PerformancePLUS, if you were looking at this, this is based on a student's scaled score. So students take the assessment, they get a certain amount of questions on the assessment, and depending how they're scoring on that, they get an overall scaled score that puts them into a specific level of proficiency. So again, subject for 4 levels. When we're talking about reporting categories, the reporting categories for Performance Plus, this is where it gets like a little bit tricky. So typically on the New Hampshire SAS summatives, there are 3 levels of reporting for a reporting category. There's low, at or approaching, or on or above. So low, obviously they're below. The yellow is where, even though it says at or approaching, they're not quite there yet. And then the green is on or above. Within Performance Plus, we have the ability, which is a little bit different than the Cambium portal, we have the ability to pull information out and give them, for some reporting categories, they'll be asterisked. I'll show you sort of what they look like. In the push reports, we have anything with an asterisk next to it will be 4 levels. So for a reporting category that we might have like operations and algebraic thinking, we will have the regular levels here, but we've also been able to break that out into students who score 0 to 25% of the points, 26 to 50% of the points, 51 to 75, and 76 to 100. That is something that we were asked from the field, is people really wanted to know, because we are able in Performance Plus to figure out exactly how many points students are scoring within a particular reporting category or cluster. People wanted buckets like this created. What I really want to make crystal clear is these are not proficiency levels. In the overall reporting, where I said level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, so it's below proficient, approaching proficient, or highly proficient, even though these colors are similar, they are not proficiency levels. They are percentage buckets. So what you may say is a student might score, again, on operations and algebraic thinking, they might score 55% of the points, right? But is that proficient? I don't know if that's proficient. They would be still in the green area. So really, it's one of the biggest misconceptions when anybody's looking at New Hampshire SAS data in the Performance Plus platform, is that they think these are proficiency. So anything that's got an asterisk, it will be percentages. So again, here we go, see where the asterisks are here. So we have the P plus has 4 levels here, again, going into these percentage buckets. And then the traditional 3 levels will also be there as well. So you'll see if they're low, at, or approaching, or on or above. Same thing with math. This is grades 3 through 5. We have the 4 levels, again, percentage buckets. The other 3 levels that they have here are low, at, or approaching, or on or above. 6th grade math, here they are. And then here's your 3 levels here. Again, anything with an asterisk is going to be in those percentage buckets. It's also going to have a header that looks like this. So it should be, I'll show you where we're talking once we look at the reports. Same thing with grade 7 and grade 8. ELA is easier because there's just one. Different grade levels of math have different domains. For, again, science, it only has the 3 reporting categories: low, at, or approaching, or on or above. So here's what you might see on a report. So these are the reporting categories. I've got my operations and algebraic thinking here. You can see it does not have an asterisk here. So this is exactly what you would see on the Cambium reporting portal. For us here, for operations and algebraic thinking on Performance Plus, you are able to see what percentage of points students scored overall for this particular reporting category, and it tells you which bucket they fall into. Okay. Now, on some of the push reports, you will also see we can have this notes. So the push reports will include notes that have to do with how many points they got out of a certain amount. Now, one thing that not all students get exactly the same number of points possible. They might get a different number of questions. They might get a depth of knowledge that's a little bit harder if they're doing well. If they're not doing as well, they might get a smaller depth of knowledge or a lower depth of knowledge question. So these are not totally consistent. Some kids are getting 9 points here. Some kids are getting 11. Some kids are getting 10 points. So this can be helpful in seeing where students are scoring. So again, they get different number of points based on the questions that they're getting. All right. Now, when it comes to clusters, what I want to talk about are the cluster scores here. Again, for the cluster scores, all of these scores are going to be in these percentage buckets. There's no low, at or approaching, or on or above. They're all going to be within these particular percentage buckets. So they'll be color coded in this way. And then here's an example of what the cluster scores are. So I'll explain sort of what you see on this particular screen. So you see your overall. This is asterisk. So these are the percentage buckets here. So they have 9 out of 11 points. And then for each one of these questions here, or these clusters of standards. So this write and interpret numerical expressions, it's up 5 to 9 points. And this one's 2 to 5 points. This particular student here, I took the names off here. So as you go across, they scored 9 out of 11, and you can see they scored 7 out of 8 on this cluster of standard and 2 out of 3 on this cluster of standard. Same thing going across here. So these notes will help you, and we do break it down by cluster on a lot of those push reports. So this is that clusters of standards that are within the Common Core. So for this here as well, I just wanted to kind of show you just on a couple of different things. So we've got write and interpret numerical expressions, and then analyze patterns and relationship, bringing this a little bit more into view from the last screen. So the possible points are here, and the percentage is here. For the summative scoring, it does not get down to the actual standard level. The cluster level is the only, that's as granular as it gets. We don't get to see down to the specific standard level in Performance Plus. So here's like an overall, just so that we can make sure we're all talking about the same terminology. Terminology is not as important, but it will be helpful for you when you're looking at the specific Common Core and what you might be doing well in, or what students might be having a hard time in. So you have your overall score. This happens to be ELA, students' overall score. And then we have reading literary text. And this is their 3 levels of reporting here, because it's not an asterisk, right? This is that same reading standards for literature, but it's got the asterisk here. So this is basically their percentage and what level percentage bucket they are in. And then it breaks down the clusters of standards and how they're doing on each particular cluster. It's a lot. So definitely ask questions. I'm going to show you some of the push reports so that you can at least see this in action, and so that you can sort of interpret and start to see what we've just been talking about with the reporting and scoring structure. So I'm going to go over where you're going to find the push reports and what's in there. Again, currently right now, we are looking at last year's data. There's not a lot of this year's data yet in Performance Plus. As you start finishing up the assessments, they will start to be showing up in Performance Plus, and I believe we're going to be working on updating those push reports so that they're the current year's data rather than last year's data. Right now, I'm going to show you what we have from last year, but again, it's all going to be relative for this year as well. So if you are on your Performance Plus homepage, if you have Performance Plus and you log in to your single sign-on, you go right through your single sign-on from the DOE to get to Performance Plus. Once you sign into your single sign-on, if you're not able to sign on to Performance Plus or Performance Plus isn't an option on your single sign-on, that means you do not have Performance Plus, so you wouldn't have a login. If you know your district has it and for some reason you don't have a login, then talk to your I4C coordinator and they should be able to get you up and running. But you should have all of these icons up at the top here that would show you that once you log into Performance Plus, that gives you access to this. Where we're talking today is in this little graph, which is the reporting portion of Performance Plus. So you're going to click right on that page, and it's going to bring you to a page where it's going to have a lot of just general information, but right up at the top, it's either at the top or the bottom, depending on what your default is, you're going to see this area that says My Reports. Now, all of the reports that have been pushed out by the state and everything are these push reports for the New Hampshire SAS. There's also, you can see an SAT accountability one as well. So these have been pushed to you. You haven't necessarily created these. Not everybody's reporting dashboard will look like this, because you will also have in there any additional reports that you have saved, that your administrators have pushed to you, or things like that. So you might have a little bit more up there than what you see here. And that's just because maybe your district has pushed other types of reports to you. Maybe you look at iReady data and your administrators have created a report that's really easy for you to run. So they've pushed it out to you and you can use a push report from them. So you might see something a little bit different, but for the most part, this is what people see when they log in and write on that reporting portal portion of Performance Plus. So I want to talk about the report folder structure. So here is what we had, again, for all the different types of reports. The first thing I want to talk about is what the summative reports include. So there are summary reports across all grade levels. There's individual reports for each grade level. And then the access to data, just so you know, is based upon your user rights and Performance Plus. So there's different levels of users in Performance Plus. So if you're not seeing data for specific reports, it might be because you are limited to the grade levels in which you're able to see, or the students that you're able to see, or the school that you're able to see if you're in a bigger district. For the reports, first off, we have this all grade levels. So these are like your overall reports that are going to report off of all the grade levels all together. You can see in here that this folder contains 6 reports, so you can see the number of reports in each one. So I want to go into that. I'm basically, if I were to click right on this, if I were in Performance Plus, these are the 6 reports that are within that particular folder. So I want to talk a little bit about these reports one by one here. So all reports in this folder show overall subject scores. We're not going to get into any sort of minutia or like clusters or anything like that in these particular reports. Math and ELA are reported together, right? So reports 1 through 3 are ELA and math, and then these are your science reports. And again, your access is dependent upon your rights within Performance Plus. The grade level reports are in the corresponding grade level folders here. So here's all the grade level reports. If you were looking at 5th, 8th, or 11th grade science, they're over here as well. So if I were to go into right now, I've gone into 5th grade. And so these are the reports that are available for 5th grade. Again, they're shown for this particular grade level. There's a math and ELA scatter plot. It's for 2022 compared to 2021. And there's no grade 3 because grade 3 is the first year that they're taking the New Hampshire SAS, so there's no grade 2 to compare it to. So the scatter plot is not available in grade 3, but for grades 4 and up, it is. And then again, your access is restricted depending on who you are in Performance Plus. When it comes to these here, so you have your science results, again, on the right-hand side here. For the science results, we basically got a specific amount of, they're the same 4 reports, but dependent on a particular grade level. These show an overall subject and reporting category and your clusters or your specific disciplinary core ideas. And so we can talk about those as well. Okay, let's get into the reports and show you what these reports look like. So if I'm going into this folder for all grades for 2022, again, these are my particular reports. If I look at this all grades by building report, this is what you're going to see. This is the top portion of the report. And so what this is showing you is it's a bar chart at the top here. And on the bottom, there's going to be a table. And then you can drill down to any of the students or click on results or anything here. So if I were in Performance Plus right now, this is grade 3 overall. This particular district has 4 schools. Here's the overall district score and what each particular school scored overall with their students for math. And then this is the grade 4 and this is the grade 5. And then we're getting grade different grade levels up here. So that was grade 6, 7, and 8. So this is their overall comparison. And then this is for math. If I go to this next page, this is what the bottom of this looks like. So you have your overall grade 3 math score and your total number of students, your overall for grade 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, and 8. So there's 4 elementary schools that feed into 1 middle school. Any one of these areas I could click on. I could click on this 8 count and it would bring me up those 8 students that were in the highly proficient. If I clicked on this 13, it would bring me up to the students that are below proficient. So it would give me a little bit more information on them as well. So all of these little areas are hyperlinked. I see that there's a question, Rebecca. Is there something I can answer now?
So the question must be in the chat. Let me just see, Heather, because I don't see any questions in the Q&A. So let me just take a quick look.
Okay.
I think it may just be me letting you know that there are no questions so far.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you can again click on the schools. You can figure out and look at any of the specific student data. So for the next report, we just looked at the all grades by building. If we look at all grades, and this is by IEP or LEP, this is the same type of report. You'll see the specific information in the bar chart form. And then on the next page, you'll see it in the regular table form. Again, you can click on any of these bars to drill down into the results. Here we have the students. I want to just make sure these are your IEP students. These are your LEP students. And then these are students that are not in those groups. Here's what your overall district is. And then your overall state or region. So the bottom of this is this is what it looks like on the bottom of the report. Again, you have each grade level and then the different students that now for here, you can't click on overall state you have to click on these. These are the ones that are linked, and then you'll be able to get into those particular students. The next report is a pie chart. So this is the summatives. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you 22, 21, and 2019. So each piece of pie breaks down the overall results by proficiency. You can again drill down into any of these above proficient, below proficient, and whatever that is there. And then we've got the you can click on these pieces of the pie as well. So you can get right down into those for the proficiency pie charts. Now, one thing that I want to make sure you understand, this is not it's not a cohort of students. This is a particular grade level and how they scored and what percent were proficient for the last 3 years that the summatives were taken. So this happens to be a third grade example, but we're in, if you were in 5th grade, 7th grade, whatever it is, it will show you the grade level in which you are, the particular folder you are in. So the grade level report examples, so that was most of the overall I'm going to go back up to here. These science ones here are very similar. They're very similar to what we have for the all buildings. They just show the science results. So we're going to pop in now to a specific grade level here. I'm going to go into 5th grade, and I want to show you what the grade level reports are. So for 5th grade, there's 8. For each grade level, there's 8. For 3rd grade, there's 7 because there's not that scatter plot. But if we go in the information here are the reporting categories for grade 5 and then the ELA and math detail reports. I want to go right into this particular report first. So this is the reporting category results for grade 5. Very similar. So you're going to have your overall score. And then what this is showing us here is we've got our math score, operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operations base 10. So we've got some modeling and problem solving. And then we've also got the ELA and the reporting categories for this. Again, you can click on any bar to view those students. And then this is what it looks like on the bottom. So you can see what the overall reporting categories are for ELA and for math for 5th grade. This is where I wanted to point out the information here on, we've got this about like the proficient, approaching proficient, and below. So that's your overall score. And then again, we have the on or above, at or approaching, or low. None of these are the asterisk scores. So you're working right in sort of tandem with what you would see on the Cambium reporting portal as well. Again, you can click on the description to view the students. If we go into the ELA detail reports, this is where we start getting into a little bit more information here, and we've got some asterisk portions of this. So here's the overall bar chart that you'll see at the top. Again, you're able to click on any of this at the top here, any of these bars. And then here's what you're going to be seeing underneath it. So right now for the ELA score, you've got overall, you've got this above, proficient, approaching, and below. And then there's nothing here because, again, our reporting categories, there's 3 levels of proficiency. But then what this is doing here, these are all asterisked. And then we have all of the clusters that are available underneath that. So now we're to percentage buckets. So this is, again, overall for 5th grade. This isn't necessarily broken down into every student. If you wanted to see every student, you could go right in here and you could take a peek. Same thing for math detail. Again, you've got your bar chart at the top. You can click on anything, and then underneath that, again, you've got your overall 4 levels of proficiency, 3 levels for reporting categories, and then we have our asterisk reporting categories, and you're able to see percentage buckets for the number of students that fell into those particular percentage buckets for each one of these clusters of standards. As we're going through, we're still in 5th grade here. So we've done these 3. Here, we're going to start next on a student detail report. So this is now where you're going to see, you would technically see student information. So I just cut the student information off here. So each student is a particular row here. So this is where we're talking about, this is overall for a student in grade 5, that these particular students, it shows what they scored in grade 4, and then now what they're scoring in grade 5 for the same information. So your overall ELA score, your reading, literary, text, and reading information, all text. For this particular report, it's going to show 22, 21, and 19. But that's only going to be in grades 6, 7, and 8, because if a 5th grader, even if we were the last 3, because we skipped a year, 3rd graders will only have one thing here, right? Because they didn't take it before then. 4th grade would have, this would be 4th grade and 3rd grade. And then in 5th grade, because they didn't take it in 2020, it's not showing here. That would be the last year. They didn't take it in 2019 because they were in 2nd grade. So it's only showing 2. But if I was in a grade 6, 7, or 8, I would see 3 years here. The next one I want to talk about, the summary ones, these 2, ELA and math, the summary results are very similar. So I'm just going to show you one of each one of those. So this just happens to be a math one. Again, students would be listed over here. You can see this is operations and algebraic thinking. This is the asterisk one. So we're in our percentage buckets. And then this cluster of standards, this is how they scored in this cluster, this cluster. Now we're on to numbers and operations, base 10 and fractions. We're looking at percentage buckets, and then all of the information for numbers and operations, base 10 and fractions are in these clusters of standards here. So it's nice because you can start to take a look at, okay, which clusters of standards are really a problem for students, or overall for operations and algebraic thinking, what are we looking at for student performance? So. This next one here is the NE2 scatter plot. This is, I'll show you the ELA one for this. The math is very similar. It's just got math scores. It's one that people look at and they say, oh my gosh, I can't figure this one out. It is a little bit tricky, but basically this is for, they take a peek at the last 2 times this particular set of students did the summative. So it would be grade 4 and grade 5 here. So we're looking at the current, like 5th grade students from last year, and 4th grade, they were in the year before, and they show how they do from one year to the next. If you were to hover over a dot, it would tell you what the student's name was if I were in the system. And then you can drill down and see what the student's information is. So here's what happens. This is ELA grade 4 for 2021. So these are when they were in 4th grade. This is how the students scored. So this, we're talking about, these are the number of students that were below proficient. So they would be in here. The students that are approaching would be in here, proficient, and above proficient are here. Same thing for grade 5 here, right here. This red is below proficient. This is approaching, proficient, and highly proficient. Really what you do here is you create a diagonal that goes like this. And you basically can say anybody below the diagonal are students who have dropped in their scores, and anybody above the diagonal are students who have improved their scores for overall. So if I use this particular student as an example, they're below this line because they scored in this really low area. They were here, like kind of in between these two scores here. So if we're looking at this in this way, they're scoring, starting to move, I guess, up towards there. Maybe they're like a quarter of the way to getting to approaching. And then, but this next year, if you look at it this way, they're really low in the fifth grade one. They've actually dropped a little bit. If this student had sort of scored the same both years, they probably would be more like right here. So anything below the diagonal, students are dropping. Anything above is they're improving. Questions about those?
Not at the moment, Heather.
Okay, great. That's pretty much it. I'm perfectly willing to stay on and ask, you can ask any specific questions that you might have. Maybe you've gotten into Performance Plus and you've looked at these and you have a specific question, or just an overall question about sort of Performance Plus to Performance Matters, whatever questions you might have. I'll hang on for a little bit. You will get a link to the survey if you log off of here before I close out of this particular webinar. If we don't have any questions, I'll close out, and particular survey will pop up. I think it's maybe 5 or 6 questions, and we really would appreciate your feedback on that. This is me. If you have any questions at all about Performance Plus, or maybe questions about what Performance Matters is, you can definitely reach out to me anytime. And if I can't answer it, I will certainly find somebody who can. So thanks so much for coming this afternoon. I appreciate it.